Okay, all set, Sue.
Okay, so we are on page 117 of Hatha Yoga Pradipika. I always leave out a syllable. This is verse 44, Padmasana. Still on chapter 1. Place the right foot on the left thigh, left foot on the right thigh, cross the hands behind the back, and firmly hold the toes. Let's see if we can find a picture. And we can. There we go. Okay, and there's several different techniques. Padmasana is a very well-known asana, which is also called Kamalasana. Padma and Kamala mean lotus. When one thinks of a yogi, one usually imagines somebody sitting in Padmasana, as it is the traditional meditative posture. The body is locked firmly in its position and physical movements are reduced to a minimum. The lower back is naturally held straight and one can almost feel the balancing effect on the body. And then basically it gives you some instructions for how to do it. And it says, before attempting Padmasana, the legs, ankles, and knees have to be very flexible. And you need to take precautions if you have slightly stiff knees because you could cause permanent damage if you try doing this and your knees are a little funky. So this is something to be really careful about. After technique 3, because there's 2 other versions of this posture. Here's one, and then here's another. That looks like a lot of fun right there. There you go. Okay. It says, in order to raise the prana, one should practice Undiyana with Bahir Kumbhaka, Janlanda Hara, and Mula Bandhas. Raising the prana means to draw up the energy which normally flows downward and outward. The purpose of Hatha Yoga is to reverse the free-flowing downward movement of apana and the upward movement of prana. That is, to hold the apana before it flows out and the prana before it moves up within the area of samana, the navel region. Now, Amanda, you've talked about this a lot. This causes a pranic reaction and a more potent energy is created which rises through Sushumna. Padmasana alone is not enough to induce this rise of prana. Therefore, pranayama, bandha, and mudra have to be incorporated. Though Padmasana and Siddhasana may be considered equally good, Siddhasana is more useful in the process of reversing the pranic flow because the Vajra Nadi is pressed, thus preventing an outward energy flow. Both asanas, however, are designed for effective dharana, dhyana, and samadhi. Padmasana specifically balances prana. Siddhasana maintains blood pressure and balances both the pranic and mental forces. Padmasana is the destroyer of disease. It brings about changes in the metabolic structure and brain patterns, and this helps create balance in the whole system. Like Siddhasana, it also presses and stimulates the acupuncture meridians of the stomach, gallbladder, spleen, kidneys, and liver. Perfect functioning of these organs is essential for good health. Padmasana tones the sacral and coccygeal nerves by supplying them with an increased flow of blood. Blood flow to the legs is decreased and directed to the abdominal region. This is helpful for people with emotional and nervous disorders. However, people with sciatica or sacral infection should not do Padmasana until the problem is alleviated. Yogi Swat Marama says, ordinary people cannot achieve Padmasana. Only the few wise ones can. What does he mean by that? He means the average person. Of course, if you look around you, you will find that very few people can perform Padmasana, and only those who are regular practitioners of yoga can maintain the posture for long periods of time. If you keep the legs supple, you will be able to do it. And that's verses 44 through 47.
Should I translate for Nikki? There's a lot of Sanskrit.
You could translate for me, thanks.
Okay. You're pronouncing it so well, Sue. It sounded like you knew it.
Yeah.
So
totally know what I'm talking about.
So we have in the nervous system, there's a downward flow of energy, of electricity that runs down the legs, right? If you get into some kind of accident and you sever a part of the spine, then the energy doesn't go down that nervous system, part of the nervous system anymore, right? Like if you, it was a Superman fell off a horse and then his legs stopped working, right? Because he wasn't getting electricity there anymore. So the yogis had mapped where the electricity goes throughout the nervous system and what it does. So when they talk about vayus, you could think it's the way electricity is flowing through the body.
Okay.
And every posture does something different to the way electricity flows. It's part of the reason why acupuncture is so effective, and they're not really sure why. It's because it redirects or stimulates the energy in certain parts to bring more electricity to the glands, or more electricity to your organs, or more electricity to certain limbs and things like that. So when he talks about, or she talks about the bandhas, they're locks that we could do in the body to intentionally redirect electricity. So she talked about the root lock, which was mula bandha, she said. Mm-hmm. And the root lock, you squeeze the pelvic floor up and in. It's almost like you can imagine a cone at the base of your pelvis rising up. And then Uddiyana bandha is the belly lock. So you suck the belly in and up towards the lungs. And Jalampara is the throat lock or chin lock, where you drop the chin, lift the ears and swallow, and it closes the throat. So as you do these locks in this posture where the legs are folded back, it, instead of making all the electricity go down through the legs, which is, you know, we need that usually to poo and to menstruate, and if you want to have a baby, push the baby out and all those things, right? If we direct it upward, then it moves up the spinal cord, whereas it's usually just moving down. So if it moves up the spinal cord, it brings so much electricity to your endocrine system, which are all the glands that create the hormones that regulate your emotions and your cycles and your immunity and your digestion. It regulates everything. And you start to get healthier and healthier and healthier the more you do this. So as women, we're not supposed to do it when we're menstruating or during pregnancy, but any other time we can do it and gain its benefits. Was there anything else that was confusing?
No, that was great. Thank you for that interpretation. I love it.
Welcome. Let's see. In this posture, I always teach it. It's a very advanced posture. Okay. The legs with the heels folded back like that into the hip crease. Mm-hmm. A lot of practitioners who aren't taught properly can get meniscal tears in their knees. So the idea is if you keep your calf and your thigh touching as you fold the foot in, then you're okay. And usually we check to see if somebody can do just the bottoms of the feet touching. Sometimes it's called butterfly pose with the knees out, or what is the actual name of it, Pam? I'm blanking.
Adhakanasana. Cobbler's pose.
Cobbler's pose or bound ankle pose. Then, and the knees touch the floor and the heels are close to you, that's an indication you can come to Padmasana. So we slowly arrive there. Otherwise, if people rush, right, their knees are really high and they come into it, they can injure themselves. But once you get there, I actually love meditating in this posture because, you know, the chunky parts of your calves are on the floor and the chunky part of your butt's on the floor. So there's nothing falls asleep. Right? Sometimes when you're sitting and one leg is crossed over the other, it's getting smashed, and then you know, the hard parts of your legs are on the floor. It's not so comfortable. But Padmasana, once you are comfortable in Padmasana, it's a really comfortable meditation posture. So that's my explanation.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Should I read 48?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, sitting in Padmasana, keeping the palms one above the other, chin on the chest, and concentrate the mind, Chitta, on him, the self. Repeatedly draw the vital air up from the anal region and bring the inhaled prana downwards. Thus joining the two, one gets the highest knowledge by awakening the Shakti. By practicing Padmasana in the described manner and reversing the natural flow of prana and apana, the potential force in the pranic system and the higher faculties of the mind are awakened. Everyone has this potential, but most people only operate on a very low current of energy, and thus only utilize a very small portion of the brain's capacity. To awaken the dormant centers of the brain, the energy level has to be increased. And to increase the prana, the positive and negative energies have to be brought together. When they unite, an explosion occurs, releasing a greater quantum of energy. This union must take place in one of the vital centers so that the released energy travels through Sushumna to the higher brain centers. This energy is called Kundalini. What Swatmarama has described is the process which takes place through practicing Udiyana Bandha and Mula Bandha. Swatmarama is giving the basic technique for the practice of further kriyas. Correct sitting position is the first prerequisite for the practices of pranayama, mudra, bandha, dharana, and dhyana.
Okay, so mudra is a lock. What page are you on? So I'll just read through it and translate.
That was 123.
Okay, so correct sitting position is the first prerequisite for the practices of pranayama, which is we do breath work practices to move the electricity throughout the body. Mudra is we put the hands into certain positions since we're always kind of releasing energy or releasing electricity. When you fold your fingers in a certain way, it's like a closed circuit. So it'll recycle it back into the nervous system. Bandha is the locks we were talking about, where you squeeze the pelvic floor, squeeze the belly, and pull the chin in, and it kind of redirects where you want that energy to go. Dharana is the act or practice of mastering concentration on one thing for a long enough period of time. That's often what we're doing when we quote unquote meditate. But when we're actually meditating, it's called dhyana. And that's when our minds are fully absorbed in the thing that we're meditating upon.
Okay, so 49 is a little long. So what direction do you guys want to go in today? Should I read it or should we? It's not horribly long. It's like 2 pages and a quarter.
I think we're fine with time.
Okay, so verse 49. The yogi who is seated in Padmasana inhales through the entrances of the nadis and fills them with maruta or vital air, gains liberation. There is no doubt about it. Maruta is another word for prana, but it has also other meanings. The Upanishads say that there are 49 maruta. They are described as being brothers of Lord Indra. Indra represents the individual mind and the controller of the senses, or the indiras. Thus, the maruta represent the 49 essential faculties or powers of the mind. They are also represented by the 49 letters of the Sanskrit alphabet. And each part of the body is associated with a particular letter. Every part of the body has a corresponding center in the brain and its own bija mantra located in the psychic body and mind. To absorb maruta is to withdraw the extroverted energy of the body and senses into the nadis. This prevents an outward flow of prana. The associated brain centers are not activated and the energy is channelized into the brain centers responsible for higher consciousness. When a practitioner establishes himself in Padmasana and reverses the pranic process, the consciousness is liberated from individual experience and existence. Mind and prana are intricately linked. Just as there are 2 poles of energy, the negative and positive forces, so there are 2 poles of individual consciousness, time and space. Hear, hear. The left hemisphere of the brain functions according to the sequence of time, and the right of the brain operates according to the principle of space. When these 2 opposite poles come together, there is a higher awakening. This means for the whole brain to be active, both hemispheres must function at the same time. Hatha Yoga accomplishes this by uniting the 2 poles of Shakti, the passive and the dynamic force, Ida and Pingala. This creates a third force known as Kundalini. It is man's potential spiritual energy which is responsible for all the higher qualities of mind. The Shakti is created in the lower body centers and rises to the higher brain centers, thus manifesting the pure consciousness. When this takes place, the finite awareness operating through the senses and the sensory experiences ceases to function. The poles of duality no longer exist because they've been united. Only the higher awareness exists. This is what is called emancipation. The Raja and the Jnana yogi aims to achieve this through concentration of the mind, but the Hatha yogi achieves it by uniting the pranas, whereby the mind automatically becomes still. He does not have to come into confrontation with the gross tendencies of the lower mind. Mind is transcended. Okay. He does not have to come into confrontation with the gross tendencies of the lower mind. Mind is transcended by concentrating on the physical aspect of prana. Liberation is not a religious word. It indicates a scientific process of uniting two opposite forces. When these opposite forces combine, an explosion occurs which releases potential energy. In Tantra, the forces are called Shiva and Shakti. In Yoga, Prana and Chitta. In Samkhya, Purusha and Prakriti. In Vedanta, Brahman and Jiva, and in physics, time and space. These two forces cannot meet at any point. They must unite in the nucleus of matter. When the opposite forces of Shakti unite in Muladhara or Manipura chakra, then the explosion which occurs releases the potential energy from that center. Science has seen when time and space meet in the nucleus of matter, that matter explodes into thousands and thousands of particles. This is the basis of creation. It is how each and every one of us was born, and by the same process, the potential consciousness can be liberated from the gross mind. All living matter is a combination of two forces, prana and consciousness. With evolution of the body, the consciousness becomes more apparent, and in this world, man is the closest to developing pure consciousness. Through the fire of yoga, the consciousness can be liberated from the gross matter of mind and body. This is the experience of Atma Anubhuti, Atma Darshan, self-realization, moksha, or samadhi. Call it what you like. It is one and the same process which commences with the practice of asana and the perfection of a comfortable meditative posture such as Padmasana. And that is the end of verse 49.
I think it's interesting how they said that the mind and energy are very connected. I definitely feel that. If I do some pranayama and I'm in a weird energetic mood, I feel much more uplifted. And
One second.
Well, I think I'm going to have to read this again. I'm
what part? What was the page again?
this
125.
began 124. So it's 124, 125, and a tiny part of 126.
Yeah, you were getting into a lot of Sanskrit. So the Raja, which is the sort of the royal system of yoga, which is what they would teach the kings and queens in Vedic times. And Dhyana yogi, which is the yogi who meditates, aims to achieve this through concentration of the mind. But the Hatha yogi, who's more physical, achieves enlightenment by controlling their energy, and then the mind automatically becomes still. So we have the intellectuals who are thinking, okay, the way through is through the mind. In the Bhakti tradition, they say the way through is through devotion. The Hatha yogis say the way through is physicality. So they don't have to deal with all the gross tendencies of the lower mind, sort of our addictions and aversions. the mind gets transcended by just concentrating on physically manipulating the prana. Liberation is not a religious word. It's a scientific process of uniting two opposite forces. So in different traditions, they call the forces different things. In Tantra, it's Shiva, which is sort of the this is like the universal consciousness is Shiva, like the universal intelligence. And then Shakti is like that sort of turbulent, creative energy. In yoga, prana, which is what translates to life force, and chitta, which is the whole of the mind, are those two energies that you're working on uniting. In Sankhya, which is sort of the tradition of our yoga studio, it's Purusha, which is universal consciousness or individual consciousness, and Prakriti is matter. So it's like when you're meditating upon something, say I'm meditating upon a candle, right? And I'm looking at the candle, I'm doing Traitek. The whole idea is that you're merging your awareness with the thing that you're meditating upon. We spend so much time merging our awareness with things outside of ourselves. It's like I merge my awareness with the identity of being a yoga teacher, even though that's not who I truly am, right? I could just stop teaching yoga tomorrow and I don't cease to exist. Right? But when you're in a meditation practice, you're yoking or sort of uniting your awareness with the inner identity, the inner self, the consciousness. So it's like yoga is uniting with the inner self. And then you gain all of that enlightenment, all of that self-realization, self-awareness. In Vedanta, which is it's the books that they wrote at the end of the last period of time, knowing we were coming into this period of time, and it's a time where there's a lot less people who are enlightened and a lot less awareness. They call it the time of darkness. They call it Brahma and Jiva. So Brahma is, I guess, could be translated to God or universal consciousness. And then Jiva is the individual liberated being. And then in physics, they say it's the merging of time and space. Does that make that clearer?
Yes.
Okay. So when two forces cannot meet at any point, they must unite in matter, in the nucleus of matter. So you think about the atom bomb, it's two tiny little atoms smashed together, right? And then this will make the explosion or the creation of something. They say that the creation of the universe was a huge explosion, right? And everything kept expanding. So in this process of uniting two opposites, there's sort of he's saying an explosion, but it's just sort of an expansion that happens, an expansion of awareness out into everythingness, right? The Buddhists call it nothingness, but the yogis say it's everythingness. And it's just two different words to describe the same thing, essentially. So these opposite forces unite in Muladhara or Manipura chakra. The Muladhara chakra is at the base of the spine. It's our adrenal glands. It feeds our adrenal glands. And then Manipura chakra is 2 fingertips beneath the base of your sternum, or they call the solar plexus. So it's above your belly button. And that is what electrifies or feeds your pancreas. So when we balance these, this explosion or expansion occurs, which releases potential energy at that center. So when you're meditating, sometimes you'll feel that all of a sudden there's this burst of activity happening at the base of your spine, really powerfully. So it's nice when the teachers tell you what's going to happen, because then when you're meditating, you don't get all freaked out. Science has seen that when time and space meet, Matter explodes into thousands and thousands of particles. That's the basis of creation. It's how each of us was born, and by the same process, the potential of consciousness can be liberated from the gross mind. Like, think about the moment when the sperm and the egg meet, and a single cell is formed. And once it's imbued with consciousness of the being, it expands into more and more and more and more and more cells until it becomes, no, not the coconut water, it's got sugar in it. Just the water.
Oh, she picked it out.
So, so that's the, if you look at pictures of it, it's just, you see the cells and they sort of like grow upon themselves and expand and expand and expand. So they've done, you know, if you look at studies by, there's some thought experiments that I usually use the example of so people can understand this better. Like Einstein asked, what happens when a train starts going so fast, it gains so much energy that it's going faster than the speed of light. And most people think that the train gets lighter, that it'll start to lift up, but actually the train will gain mass. When it has so much energy, it starts to create more matter. So this is just a functioning of the universe that we're living in, of what happens. So the idea is when we do these practices, there's almost like a manifestation of expansion of more energy, which can create more matter. So that's that whole idea of time and space sort of collapsing upon themselves. And that's what you'll experience in really deep meditation practice, that suddenly time doesn't exist. You could be meditating and it feels like you're meditating for maybe like 20 minutes, but you've been sitting there for 4 hours. Right? So they'll have like these very advanced yogis will have their students staying around them to, when they're in deep samadhi, to hold them up and make sure that no animals get them, or right, they make sure that they're safe, because they could be in meditation for so very long. And it preserves the body when you're in that state of samadhi or deep, deep, deep absorption. And you could look this stuff up. It's very bizarre. It's very bizarre. It's like these people who are in deep samadhi and they decided to pass on and leave their bodies. Their bodies are preserved for very long periods of time. It's like the bodies don't smell bad. It's very strange. And it's because that kind of consciousness affects the matter of the body in very positive ways. So, you know, you go to the typical American yoga studio and you're doing these postures and you feel so good after class and you don't really know why. You're really just touching upon the surface of the result of the practices. Right, we're meant to get to a state of meditating with all those things. If we can get flexible enough through the physical practice, it's all meant for us to be able to sit on the floor and do these practices of concentration and meditation to stoke the energy up the spine by balancing the very active state of the nervous system and the very latent state of the nervous system. Or like they just use a million different words to explain that. So it's a really simple practice. I can introduce it before we start meditating, right? We could just do spinal breath and that's all, it does it. Like we'll do the pranayama that balances the two sides, and then we do spinal breath and it all starts moving the way we want it to. But yeah, it's he's saying the mind and the energy are intimately connected. And the idea in Sankhya philosophy, which is the philosophy, again, that the studio sort of functions under, is that the mind is the most subtle form of energy, right? You can measure brain waves. They're just very light. You can't see them, but you can measure them with a machine. So when you work on the energy of the body, the energy of the nervous system, the energy or prana, it affects the quality of the mind. So you do physical practice and you feel more buoyant afterwards. You're in a better mood, right? It's almost like when we're in a bad mood, we think like, oh, I am the bad mood. Everything's terrible. Everything in the world is terrible. But the yogis say, no, it means that something funky is going on with your energy that you can actually manipulate intentionally. Any thoughts, questions on that?
No, I love that. Thank you.
Oh, you're
I'm like so excited to learn this and just participate. So thank you so much for breaking it down like that.
very welcome. All right, so you want me to lead you through pranayama, breathwork practice?
Yes, please.
Okay, cool. All right, so take your right hand and fold your peace fingers into the center of the palm, your pointer and your middle finger. And this is gonna reveal your thumb and your ring finger.
I'm sorry, could you wait just 1 second? I just gotta make sure my son is logged on.
No problem.
Okay, thank you.
Online school, huh?
Yeah, fun time.
Yeah. They want me to feed them. That's what I keep thinking. Do you see how many thousands of blackbirds are outside? Yeah, you could cook. Pam, I did the Vedic astrologer because like things have been so crazy. Huh? Yeah, you can use the milk. It cooks. And
Sorry, I'm back.
okay. He told me like this crazy thing to do, but I have to feed the birds.
Oh my God.
Like with this specific thing, and then I gotta go to the bottom of a tree and feed the bugs. And when I first read it, I was like, oh, I'm probably not gonna do that. But then yesterday, Isabella got so hurt with my parents, and like all of us, they're like, feed the birds. Because like for 2020, I always get my thing every year for my birthday. All it said was like wear an emerald ring on your right hand that's 6 carats. So it was like a whole thing for Christmas. We had to go get this emerald. It was like a whole month-long thing getting this emerald ring. And you know, the yoga studio is still open and everybody else was closing and like we're still okay. And I'm like, you know, it was probably like so superstitious. And then so I'm like, I'm gonna do it again and see what's going on because things have been getting a little rough again. Every single day I have to feed the birds. So as I'm talking to you guys, there's like thousands of starlings outside the window, like thousands of them. It's very distracting. So my parents like, oh my God, do you see all these birds? Like, yeah, they want me to feed them. I gotta go feed them.
That's so nice.
Yeah, it's sweet. I'll do it with Isabella. At first I was like, I'm not gonna do it. And my husband was like, you're probably gonna do it.
Make sure to feed the bugs too at the bottom of the tree.
Yes, I have to feed the bugs as well. All right, so let's take the right hand and fold the pointer and the middle finger into the center of the palm. And this is going to make the thumb and the ring finger, the fingers you use. So you'll close off your right nostril with your thumb. Inhale through just the left nostril. And then close off both nostrils. Then exhale through just the right nostril. Inhale through just the right nostril. Close off both. Exhale through the left. Inhale through the left. Close off both. Exhale through the right. Inhale through the right. Close off both. Exhale through the left. Inhale through the left. Close off both. Exhale through the right. Inhale through the right. Close off both. Exhale through the left. Inhale through the left. Close off both. Exhale through the right. Inhale through the right. Close off both. Exhale through the left. Let's continue like that, alternating sides. The left side is associated with the more latent rest and digest part of the nervous system, and then the right side is associated with the more active get up and go part of the nervous system. And every 90 minutes, we fluctuate from side to side. So especially when you're sick, you can notice this, that one nostril is going to be very stuffed up. So we're primarily breathing through one nostril and smelling through the other, and it switches as the day goes on. So when we do this practice, it starts to balance the two, which will balance the two parts of the nervous system like we were talking about in the book. So it's a really simple practice. It's good to do every morning. So Nikki, you're going to continue like this. And then Sue and Pam have been doing this for 7 months now. So if you want to start using the bandhas or the locks, we'll inhale from the left side, close off both sides, squeeze the pelvic floor in, pull the abdomen up and in, tuck the chin. And then release the chin, release the belly, release the root, and you'll go through the other side. Inhale through the right side. Closing off both sides, squeeze the pelvic floor, the belly, the chin, turn the eyes up. Release the chin, the belly, the root, and then exhale through the left side. Got it? So everyone's going to continue. Right? You don't want to do the locks right at the beginning. You want to really cultivate a practice. So we're not putting too much energy into our nervous system. And so as you exhale, try to exhale out the left side. So you'll do both sides and then finish on the left side. So we start on the left and finish on the left. And then place the hands down on the knees. You could do it with the palms facing down. And we'll do Soham meditation. Soham is a Sanskrit word. It means I am that. So I am focused on the inner consciousness, which is my actual identity, right? So you say, I am that, I am that, anything that is unchanging. It's sort of the witness state that we're moving into. So as you inhale, you'll sort of just pay attention or feel from the crown of the head to the down the spine to the base of the spine. As you exhale, you'll move the mind from the base of the spine to the crown of the head. So again, you'll inhale from the crown of the head to the base of the spine. You'll exhale from the base of the spine to the crown of the head. And as you inhale, you'll say so. Exhale, hum. Inhale, so. Exhale, hum. If the mind wanders to some other place and time, just realize you've gone elsewhere and return to your mantra. And we'll sit for 20. You can bring the hands to prayer and bow the head. Namaste.
Thank you, Amanda.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for reading, Sue.
Thank you, Sue. Have a great
Thank you.
Thanks,
This is
everybody.
great.
Nice day, buddy.
Nice to meet you guys.
Nice to meet you too, Nikki.
Do you guys do this every day?
Yes, Monday through Friday.
Monday through Friday. Awesome. And would I need just to go back into the same? I did it through Mind and Body and Mind, I think, the app.
Mind Body. Yeah, you could do
Mind
it
Body.
there.
Yes.
Yeah, you could do it through there or right on the website if you click online classes, and then at the bottom it says Community Sadhana.
Okay.
It's got the link to get into this as well.
Okay, awesome. And have you guys started classes back in the studio or no?
Yeah, we just started last week.
You did.
So 7:30 classes. If you look on MindBody that you registered for this, you can see, because we're going to every week keep adding more classes in person. So you can just look for in studio and you'll be able to pre-register for that if you want to practice inside.
Okay, awesome. And you have also yoga online.
Yes, we have tons of yoga online. So, and if you sign up for the membership, we have an archive of videos of the past 7 months as well online that you get access to.
Oh, awesome. Awesome.
Yeah. So you can practice anytime you want, in the middle of the night or in the morning if you've got kids. I mean, I know how that is. You have to get them wherever you can.
Awesome. And I'm so excited about this book that you shared. I'm currently reading the Yamas and Niyamas and then the Bhagavad Gita.
Oh, so you're into it, huh?
Yes.
Teacher training or something like that? Or just
I am. I just finished the 200 hours. So I'm in the process of finishing that. So
that's great.
Yeah. And for years, have gone back and forth. And now it was just something, with my spirit. I was like, I just have to dive in. This is what I have to do.
That's
like
awesome.
all roads lead back to here. So yeah. Thank you so much. And I'm so excited to have connected with you in this group. So I'll see you guys tomorrow.
Okay, excellent. We'll see you tomorrow. Have a great day.
You too. Thank you. Bye.
Awesome. Bye.